All right, so I'm going to go ahead into this slide. I'm going to go over it again because I know we went over it before we left. Now, whenever a person passes away, the information is submitted to the Army Benefits Center by the supervisor. And so we don't have a casualty assistant who will go out to your location or your family's location, but what we do is we offer them the direct phone line to that counselor who's going to be specifically assisting them with all their claim forms. And that's all within 24 hours. Now, as FERS employees, we have an additional benefit that's payable. So not only whatever is payable for our FERS retirement system, there's additional amount. It's almost equivalent to 1 year's worth of salary, but not quite, because it also has to look at the COLA index for that year. So basically, if you're married to someone for at least 9 months, and you have at least 10 years of creditable service, then your spouse may be entitled to additional benefits from the FERS retirement system. And that's what we do. We make sure that we verify all the variables to maximize whatever benefit your family member is entitled to. Now, the only exception to that 9-month rule is if your death was accidental, or if your spouse is, if there's a child between the two of you, or if your spouse was pregnant. Okay. There's other benefits for FERS employees. So there are entitlements to where your children can receive a portion of your FERS retirement. And all this that I'm talking about right now, this is if you were to pass away as a federal employee. We call it death in service. So if your children are unmarried and under the age of 18, then they too can be eligible to receive a FERS annuity. If they are 18 to 22 but enrolled in an accredited university, then they can also receive certain benefits from FERS. I do want to say that Social Security benefits will take precedence. So if they are entitled to receive something from your Social Security earnings, then that part is going to pay first. And remember when I talked about earlier that one might offset the other? It'll come to play here if there are Social Security benefits to be payable. Okay. And of course, if your child has been disabled before the age of 18, then no matter what age they are, if you were to pass away in service, then there's some benefits that may be payable to them. And this is just to give you an idea of how much will be payable. Of course, it still says the 2017 rate, but I believe it's the same. It's one child, $512. For 3 or more children, is divided $1,537. And then, of course, if the first one pertains to if they still have one parent living, the second one is if there are no parents living. So you see that it's slightly pays slightly more. All right, designation of beneficiary forms. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. The only part of my job that ever had me up at night will probably be these designation of beneficiary forms, because we have so many things going on in our life, and the last thing that we think about is updating those forms. So when we came on board as federal employees, they gave us this welcome packet, told us to fill out all this stuff. We filled it out, turned it in, never thought about it. And here we are years later. Things have changed, remarried, or married for the first time. Last person on those beneficiary forms was mom. Just different things that we want to make sure we update. So we have 4 different types of beneficiary forms that we want to make sure we get updated. Because if they're not on file, then we do have to follow an order of precedence. However, if it's not necessarily going to automatically go to a spouse, then you'll want to make sure that you complete the SF 1152, and that's for unpaid compensation, like anything on your payroll salary, anything that's not been paid out to you, you can elect who you want paid out to. The SF 2823. So if you carry the life insurance policy, FEHB, Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, then you definitely want to fill out that form, because you can indicate who you want those portions to go to. You can put multiple beneficiaries on there, on those forms. These forms cannot be erased or scratched, lined through, no whiteout. It's a legal binding document. So if a person passed away, even if the last time it was completed was back in 2005, because it's a valid document and is on file in your EOPF, that is a document that's going to be used when paying out those policies. Yes, ma'am. The question was, can those forms be found on EBIS? You know how Google is. You can Google any of these forms and they'll pop up. But you can find them on EBIS. If you click on forms, just look for these forms and they're all listed there. You can fill it out on that system and print them out, sign them. And you can also find them on our ABC webpage under forms. When you complete the form, when they're completed, can they be found on EOPF? Now, there's a process in place. Once you complete them, you sign off on the forms. You have to have your 2 witnesses as well, and have to have it, CPAC has to certify it. Once it's certified, then it's uploaded to your EOPF so that it's visible. Okay. The SF 3102, that's for your FERS retirement. So everything that you've contributed, the interest and everything that is accumulated over the years is payable to whoever you put on that form. If you don't have the SF 3102 on file and you're married, then automatically it's going to go to order of precedence. The TSP3, that form you can find by clicking the link on our website, but it's going to actually take you directly to TSP because they maintain responsibility for this form. So you don't want to send this one to ABC. You want to make sure you send this form to the address that's on the form. It's like on the first page, directly to TSP. If it's on file in your EOPF, but TSP does not have it, they consider it invalid. Now, when we talk about the order of precedence, if you have a court order in place, then they look at that first. Now, typically when people have court orders, they don't actually put them on file in their EOPF. Not too many people want other people to be able to see that kind of information. You want to make sure it's available somewhere so if in the event something happened to you that it is available. But ideally, this court order is supposed to be on file with the agency prior to passing away. And then we look at the designation of beneficiary forms. So we look for these, make sure they're valid. If there are none in place for these 3 here, and this same applies for TSP, but they do that process themselves. Then we go to spouse. So if you were married and you pass away, then your spouse is entitled to receive those benefits. If you were not married, or if your spouse had already passed away, or whatever the situation, then they look at children. If there are no children, it goes to parents, and if parents passed away as well, then it goes to the executor of your estate. And when they say executor of the estate, then that's something meaning somebody has to apply to be executor of your estate and provide those documents. Even if somebody applies as executor, but there are beneficiary forms in place, then the money's going to be paid out to the beneficiaries, even if this person is handling your estate. And then next of kin differs from state to state. So whoever is deemed next of kin based on that state, that is how it's handled. But what we do is we send out beneficiary forms to, if we have no beneficiary form, we send out claim forms to anyone who says that they were akin to you, or say, for example, you pass away and you've got siblings but no children and parents are passed away. We send it to all your brothers and sisters. We don't know, we don't make the decision, but it's up to the Office of Personnel Management to verify all that information. But it's very important to have them on file. We have a question?
If you want to verify that you have those forms on file, we can go to the EOPF website and they should be there for us to see.
Absolutely. So if you want to verify that the first 3 beneficiary forms are valid or up to date, then you will go for these 3 forms to your EOPF, pull up the EOPF, you should see all your history. And the last one on file, that's the one that's going to take the precedence. It supersedes any of the old ones. If you want to make sure your TSP is on file, there's nowhere for you to actually look except to call TSP and verify that information with them. Of course, if things have changed, you can just go ahead and do the forms all over again and submit them.
TSP is now putting on the bottom of their forms the date of your last beneficiary and who they are and the percentages. As of last year, it showed up on the year-end form.
So the statement was that TSP is now putting the beneficiary information and a percentage based on your last TSP3 form. On what document did you say that was? Was that the benefit letter from TSP?
Yeah,
Okay.
the annual statement.
Okay. So if you were to call ABC and ask for, who are my beneficiaries, we won't be able to give you that information. We do verify everyone who calls in, but it's just not information that we are allowed to give out while we're talking to you over the phone. We will advise you to go to your EOPF or just submit new forms if you're not sure who those indicated were. So for COLA, as FERS employees, what we basically need to know is that we don't start drawing COLA until we're 62. And it's based on the consumer price index, so whatever it is for that year, then that's what we receive. If there's no increase, then we don't receive a COLA increase. Until 62. If you retire at 60, no COLA until you reach age 62 for FERS employees. So I know I asked a question about NAF. If anyone here would have NAF service, that's pretty much lifeguard, AFES, those type of positions. Okay. Converting from the question was converting from one retirement system to the other. Basically, if a person was NAF, they have the choice, especially if they have a component with NAF, to continue their NAF retirement system as an AF employee, appropriated fund employee. So there's people who work at ABC who are still under the the NAF retirement system, and it actually pays out a lot more. But if a person has a component, sometimes it's better to go ahead and continue paying into the retirement system that you already have been. That one, they can continue it. They, of course, can't get any matching for TSP. There's other things like that. And if a person goes from AF to NAF and they had a component, then they can go into NAF and continue their retirement system along with them. So it all has to do with a component under that retirement system. So if you are NAF and you carry the NAF retirement system code, which is a 5 when it comes to retirement codes, you'll see the number 5 on your SF50s, then that means that what you want to do is contact that nearest NAF office and they'll discuss your retirement calculations. If you are with a NAF employee but you're working AF, appropriated funding, then we will assist the NAF office in verifying benefits and salary and things like that. So the two offices have to work together in order for a NAF employee's retirement to be calculated. All right, so time and time again, we have people who retire not sure that they want to totally retire, but they might go back to another agency, even if it's NAF, if it's Navy. Once you go back to another agency or are reinstated as a federal employee, especially if it's within 3 days, we ask that you please let us know at the time that we're processing your retirement. Because as you all know, your annual leave will pay out. Now, if your annual leave pays out and you're back on the rolls as a federal agent or a federal employee, then DFAS is going to send you a really friendly letter letting you know that you retired, that they know you retired. However, since you're back on the payroll, you have to pay out or pay back all the annual leave that you've been paid out. And you know when they pay annual leave to us, they tax it. So you're paying it all back, taxes included. So it is very important for you to let us know if you decide that I'm going to retire, however, I'm going to come back because they still need me. Please let us know. If that's kind of the case, if you can, take time off. So if you're paid out for, say, 2 months worth of leave, try to stay out long enough for it to exhaust, for it to expire, that 2 months. So then when you do come back, there's nothing to repay because it's all been used. So if you have any more questions on that, give us a call. Because the last thing we want you guys is to get any type of debt letter from DFAS when you go back to a federal agency, NAF included. Okay, so this is the part where we go into health insurance, taking it into retirement, the requirements, and things like that. I'm also going to talk about those who might want to suspend their FEHB, their federal employee health benefit going into retirement for something, say like TRICARE or Medicare, okay? So now we've got self only, self plus one, and self and family. And this is new as of, I'm going to say it's still new to us, but as of about 3 years now. Okay. So in order to be able to continue your health insurance into retirement, you want to be retiring under an immediate annuity. That basically means that you're eligible to start drawing your retirement the very next month. You must have that insurance on the date that you're retiring. You must have been covered for at least 5 years prior to retirement or your first opportunity to enroll. So there are people who have been enrolled in FEHB, have a break, come back, and work for maybe 3 years. Their first opportunity to enroll was when they first started on that, when they came back to federal service. Of course, they only been back for 3 years, so it's only 3 years since they've been enrolled, but they did enroll their first opportunity. And coverage as a family member under FEHB or TRICARE counts towards the 5 years of coverage. So what that means is, for me, if I were to pick up, say, FEHB, I don't have FEHB right now. I have TRICARE under my spouse's plan. So if I decide that I'm going to go ahead and get ready to retire, but I need to pick up a health care plan, then I can use TRICARE coverage as me continuing a federal employment, or excuse me, a federal health insurance plan, because it is federal. It's not the same for, say, a teacher, my spouse, if he was a teacher and he had a state plan. That's different. So for TRICARE, that can be used to meet the 5-year requirement toward taking a new FEHB plan into retirement. So if I pick up FEHB, have it for about a year, and decide that I'm going to retire, then of course when they look at my election form, I've only had it for 1 year, I would have to contact TRICARE to get that letter to prove that I've been enrolled for X amount of years. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. You can, yes. So what you want to make sure of, so the question was, kind of reiterating what I just said, can you use your TRICARE coverage as the 5-year eligibility to take FEHB into retirement? And it's a yes. One thing you want to make sure of is that you don't have a break between that TRICARE coverage and that FEHB plan beginning. No breaks. And then when it comes to the TRICARE, you also want to make sure you get that letter from the TRICARE office as proof, and they'll send it to you. They have no problems. They're used to doing that. But the other thing is, you want to make sure that your TRICARE, of course, they list I think they're going to list the names of everyone who may have been under that plan on there. But most importantly, you want to make sure that it is you are enrolled in FEHB. So you can't say, well, I've got TRICARE, so later on after retirement, if I decide I want to pick it up, I can. That's not the case. If you want to continue your FEHB into retirement, you have to be enrolled in FEHB when you get ready to retire. So whether that's participating in an open season to pick it up, then you'll have to do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. So the question was, as a family member. So in my example is, I'm the family member under that TRICARE plan. So if I pick up FEHB under my employer, then what I would have to do is get proof from my sponsor, TRICARE, so that I can take my FEHB into retirement with me. Now, it also says right there, Vera DSR. So, of course, a DSR, if they're telling you you've got to be off the rolls, right, and you just enrolled in FEHB, say, 3 years ago, and you were planning to continue until you met the 5 years of coverage so you can carry that with you, they're not going to penalize you for that. As long as you are already enrolled in it, and you've been enrolled in it since the beginning of that buyout period, then you can still, it's an automatic waiver that they give you. Okay. Okay, so when it comes to the cost of FEHB and retirement, as we know right now, we get paid 26 pay periods, except if it's a leap year. But typically it's 26 times a year. We paying those premiums 26 times a year. As a retiree, you're paid once a month. So the difference in the premium is basically lumped into a monthly premium payment. At the end of the year, it's still the same. However, it just changes from a 26 biweekly pay to a 12-month pay. So you're paying the same premiums. You're paying the employee portion. The agency continues to pay the government portion for you. Okay. You are still eligible to enroll in open seasons. When you carry it into retirement, you'll just go through OPM for those open enrollment periods. Now, once you cancel it, you can never re-enroll. So that's why if you don't need it, we like to discuss with you other opportunities. Although suspending it is not for everyone, and you have to meet a certain criteria, we like to at least discuss that with you to see if you fall under that category. Now, is anyone familiar with the term premium conversion? So right now, unless we waive it, we're under premium conversion, which means our FEHB premiums are deducted before our salaries are taxed. When you retire, you're not under premium conversion. So that means that your retirement check is going to be taxed, and then your FEHB deductions are going to come out. At age 65, enrollment in Medicare is optional. However, if enrollment in Medicare It becomes your primary, FEHB becomes your secondary. So if a person is enrolled in Medicare right now while they're still working, it's vice versa. So FEHB is primary and then Medicare. Once you retire, then Medicare is primary and then your FEHB. If you've got TRICARE, then that's like tertiary. That's like the third one to pay out. Retirement is not a qualifying life event to change your FEHB unless you currently have an HMO plan and you're in Kentucky, but you decide that you're going to move to Florida in retirement, and that HMO Kentucky plan does not cover you in Florida, then that is the only time you're going to have like a qualifying life event to make that change. And for the most part, people have the PPO or the nationwide plans. But there are times when a person might have an HMO plan that would apply. So same plans available. It's not like a FEHB Prime. It's just whatever you ever saw on the OPM website, those are the same plans that will be available to you. So retirees can suspend FEHB for TRICARE, Medicaid, Medicare Advantage, and then return to the FEHB during an open enrollment period. So those are the only situations when going into retirement, you can suspend your FEHB plan. That means you'll still be able to pick it back up. It's just that while you're retired, you won't actually have access to that plan right away, and you won't be paying those premiums. Some people say, I don't need it. Once I get on Medicare, they're going to take care of everything that I need. And if that's the case, then this will be an option for people who maybe want to make sure they still have the opportunity to pick it back up, because suspending it is different from canceling it. This microphone.
Is there any advantage in keeping the federal health plan over TRICARE, especially when you reach age 65 and you have to go on Medicare?
So the advantage of maybe keeping FEHB over TRICARE, or Medicare, I'm sorry, if you have Medicare, it's personal preference, really. Because there may be certain people who have FEHB and it doesn't cover their children. Or say, for example, TRICARE covers children up to a certain age, whereas FEHB cover them up until age 26. So there's situations where people who are retiring might still fall in that category, and they still have to continue that plan because they are paying into that health plan to benefit someone else. But otherwise, as far as what covers the most, I don't know. So it definitely is personal preference. Some people don't have as many health concerns, so they don't need as much coverage, and some people do. So they also look at that too. The question was, do you have to wait until open season to suspend the FEHB? Suspending FEHB is only something that you can do going into retirement. So when you fill out your retirement forms, you don't necessarily have to fill out a 2809 election form to make sure it goes into retirement with you, as long as you met the criteria. But what you will have to do is fill out the extra form to submit with your packet in order to suspend it. And I'll go over that form with you as well. So, did I answer your question? As an active employee, as a retiree, we can all suspend, not all of us, unless we have TRICARE, Medicaid, or Medicare Advantage, we can suspend our FEHB. No, going into retirement. So if I'm filling out my retirement paperwork, then I'm going to fill out that form to suspend it, put it with my retirement paperwork, and send it to ABC. You get to put the date on there that you want it to stop. So open season is not an opportunity to suspend health insurance. It's only something that we can do when we're submitting our retirement paperwork to go into retirement. Open season, you can cancel at any time, but that's different from suspending. Did that answer your question? Okay, so open season, can I suspend my health insurance? No. When you're going into retirement and you meet those criteria, yes, you can suspend your FEHB. If you're already retired, can you suspend it and pick it up again? So if you go into retirement and you suspend it, then you'll have an opportunity to pick it back up again. If you suspend it in retirement, or are you saying after you retire, can I suspend it later? Now, if you retire and you didn't submit it to us, then you'll definitely want to contact OPM to ask them if you can suspend it, because it's something that they authorize going into retirement. And at that point, it might be only opportunity to cancel it.
Your previous slide indicated that once you reach 65, Medicare becomes primary and FEHB becomes secondary. What happens to your covered beneficiaries who may not be eligible for Medicare at that point?
Then that's another situation. So the question was, like the bottom bullet says, if at 65 you're eligible for Medicare, and if you decide to go ahead and enroll in it, of course you can't cover your family members on Medicare. So the answer would be, a lot of people will continue FEHB so they can continue to cover those family members under health care. And there's situations where they're just waiting for their spouse to be eligible as well so that they can get rid of the whole thing, but personal preference and situational. So this slide just kind of gives you a quick tidbit of Medicare. Of course, any questions about Medicare, you want to make sure you contact them or go to their website. But this just gives you an idea of what each part means. So Part A, hospitalization, automatically enrolled at 65. We don't pay anything for it. Part B is medical, and that's when we have to pay a premium for it. Part C is private company, so it may be another employer or another health care plan that you picked up. And then, of course, Part D is drug, and we do have a monthly premium for that. Okay, so before I go into life insurance, any more questions about health insurance? Yes.
You can enroll in Part A, B, or C, or if you, oh, I'm sorry. Hey. Oh, I got the mic. Okay. So with the Medicare, do you enroll in like Part A only, or when you enroll in Medicare, you enroll in all the parts?
So the question was, do you have to enroll in all the parts of Medicare? Part A is automatic. Now, Part B, there's like a time limit to where you may have to get enrolled in Part B once you become eligible. And as the Army Benefit Center is concerned, there's a form that'll come from Medicare, and people will send them in to us just to prove that they already have a federal employee health benefit plan, so that later on, should they decide to enroll after retirement, then they're not penalized. So you don't have to enroll in the other ones right away. However, you want to make sure that you're not penalized for enrolling later on. So that's why we say always go through Medicare for this part of it if this is something that you're thinking about or close to enrolling in. But at age 65 is automatic for us. So, yes, can FEHB serve as Part B? And I'm sorry, sir, I know you have the mic. I'll
No, it's fine.
right over there to you. Yes, and that's when you want to send a form to ABC, and this form comes from Medicare, just so that we can verify that you are currently enrolled in an FEHB plan, because there's penalties that come along with enrolling later. Yes, sir?
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to go back over the other part because having a couple kids in school still that continue coverage that you'll get through TRICARE, but you do not get through Medicaid. So when does that cut off? If I'm automatically enrolled in Part A at 65, and if my kids are still in school at that point, does my involvement or enrolling in Part B negate the TRICARE benefit, or how does that work?
No, you can. So if I am eligible at 65 and if I decide to enroll in Part B, which is all for ourselves, this Medicare, does it take away anything from that FEHB plan that we have or that TRICARE coverage that we have for our dependents?
Right.
Okay, no. So you can have them all and pay for all of them. And whatever you have, whatever your benefits are currently for FEHB or for TRICARE, they stay the same for family members as well. This part is just for yourself. And if you decide that you want to enroll in it, then you just pay whatever that monthly premium is for that Part B.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I just got a question. I may be going out of getting away from the subject. TRICARE for Life, do you know anything about that? Or
No, I do
Okay.
not. I just know that I am covered under TRICARE, and I'm thankful because my husband just retired. So, but that's all I know as far as what my benefits are, but not enough to start talking about it. I would just say call in to TRICARE office to find out more about those benefits. Right. This is only for you. Medicare, this is just for us. What we pay into Social Security, this is what comes out of, a portion of what comes out of that benefit is our Medicare. Separate. Which is why, so the question was, this is all us. This TRICARE is, or excuse me, this Medicare is just for us. We can't enroll our family in our TRICARE, or excuse me, our Medicare. It's just for us individually. So for some people, if you got to cover your family members under your FEHB plan, that's why for some, it's a really good idea to be able to suspend it when they go into retirement. Fixed income, they don't want to continue paying for FEHB if their spouse is already eligible for Medicare and they are eligible for Medicare. Or if they're themselves and their spouse are covered under their TRICARE plan, then they want to suspend it. But they've got to meet the criteria of either TRICARE, Medicaid, or Medicare Advantage to be able to suspend it going into retirement. So if the next open season comes, it's not something that we can just say, I want to apply to suspend it. The only opportunity we have right now as an eligible employee is to cancel it. And then after retirement, if you haven't already suspended it, then typically, from what I know right now, OPM is not going to allow you in the open season after you've retired to suspend it. It's something that they allow annuitants to do going into retirement. However, it's definitely something to like look into if you ever want to maybe suspend it later on. Yes, sir. You, sir. Right there.
So the question for this then is there any required time length to be enrolled in the FEHB? So, example, when everyone's getting up to be 65, so, and if they're gonna retire and just pay like 1 month of premiums and then suspend it,
so the
can that happen?
So the question is there a time limit to where you want to suspend it? When you submit the forms in with your retirement packet, you get to put the date on there that you want it to be effective, when you want it to be suspended. So some people want to suspend it when they know that their Medicare benefits are going to kick in, or whatever the case is. It's specific. You put that date on there, and that's when OPM will suspend it.
Because there seems to be a lot of TRICARE people in here, and that's why I was saying that. So if they're looking and they're not enrolled in FEHB yet, but they're looking to enroll.
That's a good question. Thanks for bringing that point up. Yes. So a lot of TRICARE people, if you decide that you want to maybe pick up TRICARE, FEHB, so you can take that into retirement, you have to have TRICARE when you enroll, or excuse me, when you retire. So if I'm retiring January 31st of 2019, what I'm going to do is participate in this year's open season. It's every November. And I'm going to get enrolled in FEHB. The FEHB will kick in the beginning of the next year, of 2019. So if I'm retiring on the 31st of January, then I am enrolled in FEHB. And I can go ahead and take that with me into retirement. So I don't have to have it for at least a full year or so. I just have to have that enrollment in place and effective. And then I say, hey, I got this letter from TRICARE, so I'm going to continue this FEHB. All right. So we're going to go into life insurance. If you do not have life insurance right now, or say when you retire, then none of this is really going to apply to you. If you just enrolled in life insurance for that last open season that we just had, then remember, any changes that you've just made, you've got to have those for 5 consecutive years. So what that means is if you participated in this most recent life insurance open season, then if you had basic from when you first started all the way up until open season, and I think the elections were effective October 1st of 2017. So if I had basic all that time and then submit an election during the open enrollment period so that I can have basic plus option B 5 times, then I've got to have that option B 5 times if I want to take any of that into life retirement with me. So for right now, all I can take into retirement is my basic coverage because I've had that one for at least 5 years or more. Clear as mud? Okay, so if you just participated in this most recent open season for life insurance, because they come very rare, far in between. So you've got to have each multiple for at least 5 years in order to take any of that into retirement with you. Okay? So if you have maxed it out, basic, option A, option B, option C, everything, then you get to choose whatever you want to take into retirement and any number of multiples that come along with it. But if you just recently picked it up, the other multiples in this past open season, then you have to have them for 5 years if you want to take any of that additional multiples into retirement. Right. So the question is, when do you start reducing your life insurance? Anytime. You can reduce it at any time. You can always go down, even after retirement. You can always decrease. The hard part is increasing if you want to pick up additional coverage. So I'm going to start talking about it because a lot of this stuff is going to be touched in these slides. Of course, you need to have it when you go into retirement. And you have to be retiring on an immediate annuity. And enrollment in each option or multiple for at least 5 years of service prior to retirement or first opportunity to enroll. Basically, the situation, picked it up in open season, haven't had it for 5 full years. But they also say first opportunity to enroll. So what does that mean? So if I have basic life insurance coverage and I just get married for the first time, never remarried, or even if you were, but basically I finally have a qualifying life event to pick up option C coverage. Option C coverage is family coverage. Before, I didn't need it. So I'm going into retirement, and I've had basic for so many years, like since I can remember. But I just now picked up this option C coverage because now I have a family member who that policy would cover. Well, when you go into retirement, they consider that as the first opportunity to enroll because before then you didn't need your option C coverage. I'll go into that a little more. If you're going to retire and you do have life insurance, the form that you will submit with your packet is the SF-2818. That's the continuation for life insurance. If you decide that you don't want to take it into retirement, you still have to submit that form. So the next few slides that I talk about, we're going to break it down a little bit. This slide right here is only talking about basic. So basic only. So you'll see a dollar amount for basic. Basically what I'm trying to get at is you'll see that each of the options cost. And once you add it all together, then that's what your premium will be deducted from your retirement check. So this is how you decide on how much life insurance you can comfortably take into retirement. So for this example, the basic insurance amount, or BIA, is rounded up, is the salary rounded up to the nearest 1,000, and then an additional $2,000 on top of that. So for whatever your salary is, round it up and add an additional $2,000 on that, and if you have life insurance, then that's what your basic portion alone is worth. So for this employee, their basic amount is $54,000. So with that $54,000 for basic, they've got these three options. The first one is 75% reduction. So some people want to know how much they can continue on without having to pay anything for. So when you, before age 65, you're still going to pay a premium for it. Basically, in this situation, this person is going to pay $17.55 per month for their basic policy. Their basic policy is still worth $54,000. Now, after they retire, after they turn age 65, they will no longer pay a premium. So this premium will disappear. No premium at all. No. So what's going to start happening is it's going to start reducing at a rate of 75% reduction. So that's basically 2% per month for a total of 37.5 months until you have a payout worth 25% of the overall amount, what it was initially. Some people say they're not trying to make anyone rich. They just want enough to bury them. And then the next option is going to be 50% reduction. 50% reduction, there is a premium to pay. So basically, the person is going to pay $55.89 a month to continue $54,000 in coverage. Once they reach the age of 65, they're going to still have a premium. The premium amount is going to reduce, but so is the $54,000 in coverage. It's going to reduce 1% per month for a total of 50 months until they're left with half of the initial amount. If a person decides to do no reduction at all for this $54,000 basic policy, they're going to pay $132.57 per month. That's before age 65. And then once they reach the age of 65, it'll stay. It'll still be a fixed rate, but in this case, it'll be $115.02 per month for the basic portion alone. So we're just talking about the basic here. So when you fill out the form 2818 and it starts asking you questions about basic, what we just went over, this is where you're going to have to decide if you want to continue it or not. And if you do, you have to decide on 75%, 50%, or no reductions. In our estimates, we will show you FEHB, and we try to show you what you have, taking it all into retirement with you. And that dollar amount is so high that a lot of people will give us a call and say, okay, what do I need to do to not pay this much in retirement? Yes, sir? Not for this one, not for basic. The premiums ever go up in retirement? Basic, no, but the next ones I'm going to show you, yes. You can decrease it. The question was, can you change it? Once you elected the first time, you can always decrease it, but you can't increase it. So for option A, if anyone in here has option A, then this pertains to you. So for option A, it's just a standard $10,000. We don't adjust the amount for option A. That's what it is on a standard basis. So it looks at the age group that we're in when we retire, and that's how much we pay. Now, once we reach age 65, we no longer pay anything for that $10,000 policy. Now, what happens is, it's kind of like with the other basic, what I was saying, that it will decrease 2% per month for 37 and a half months until this free option A policy is only a payout worth $2,500. And then this is the area of that form that you're going to fill out if option A applies to you. If option A applies to you and you don't have it, then you want to make sure that you put on there, I don't have. So if you only have basic, it's going to ask you for each of the options. If you don't have the other options, then please select I don't have. If you do have those options and you don't want to keep it, just say no. You would think that it wouldn't matter, but it does. OPM will come back to us saying that the information was stated incorrectly on this form and it needs to be updated. So they may actually ask for a new one. And we don't want them to actually have to do that when you're already in retirement. So we do ask that you fill them out in that way. All right. Option B. So early on, when we get started working for the government and we're all young, then we pick up option B coverage and we max it out because we want to because it's so cheap. Mine has already started increasing. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but on your birthday, the pay period after your birthday, you see an increase in that option B coverage because you had a birthday. So after age 45, every 5 years after that, you're going to see an increase. Okay. So this example is only talking about one multiple of option B, and we can have up to 5. So if you have up to 5, just keep in mind that this example is only talking about one multiple. And it's not even, this is separate from what our basic would be, what our option A would be if we took those. So in this example here, for this person to keep option B, which one multiple of option B is just the salary rounded up. So nothing additional added on, just the salary rounded up. And so if a person with one multiple of option B were to take that into retirement, then that's an additional $49.56 for them. Now, if they have 5 times option B, then you can times $49.50 times 5. And that's for the option B policy, because we can have up to 5 multiples of whatever our salary is rounded up. Because keep in mind, our life insurance is calculated based on our salary going into retirement. Okay. And so for option B, we can have choices as to if we want to have reductions or no reductions. So you can either keep the whole amount, no reductions at all, or you can request to have full reduction, which basically means that it'll reduce 2% per month for 50 months, and then that amount will go away altogether. So we won't have a small portion of it remaining. It's just going to continue decreasing for 50 months at a rate of 2% until whatever's remaining They just take it all off because we won't have that remaining at all. It just goes away altogether. When you fill out this form, if you have it and you want to continue it, you're going to say yes right here. But if you decide that you want some to be reduced and some to stay full, then you'll make sure you annotate that here. So for example, I have 5 multiples. And if I want to make 3 of them or 2 multiples stay and not reduce, so I want to have 2 times my salary remain, and then the other 3 times my salary, because I can only have up to 5, 2 stay, 3 fully reduce, then I can make that election here so that once this part reduces, I'll still have some, and of course I will pay the premium for that. Last but not least, we have family coverage, which is option C. For option C, this covers a spouse. 1 multiple of option C is worth $5,000 for a spouse. We can have up to 5, so up to $25,000 in coverage for a current spouse. It covers children $2,500 for each multiple, and that is up until age 22. The only way it'll cover them past 22 is if they were disabled prior to that age, prior to 22. So, of course, as you can see, it talks about age group, and this is your age group, not the family member. And from 1 multiple, if this person wants to take that $5,000 for their spouse, then they're paying $6.80 for that 1 multiple. Of course, the same thing for option C. When you're filling out that form, you just want to make sure that if you have it and you want to continue it, you fill out this or check this box, and then how much of it you want to continue. So if you only have 1 multiple, then you just decide whether you want it to continue as no reduction or full reduction. If you do have it, but you don't want to keep it, you want to just say no. And then if you don't have it at all, you put I don't have. So, does anyone have questions about the life insurance? All right, moving along. Okay. All right, so TSP. Of course, when you call the Army Benefit Center, the ABC counselors cannot see your TSP information. We can walk you through EBIS so that you can make your election. So if you want to increase the amount coming from reduced from your salary per pay period toward TSP, then that's how we can step in and help you. If you want to change how your funds are being allocated, we can't help you with that part because we have no control over that. You want to call TSP or go on the website, tsp.gov, and you can actually move your money around that way. So we have 2 different types of ways to contribute to TSP. Before we go into TSP, let's go ahead and take a break. Okay, so now it's time to go into TSP. Just to let you guys know, I'm touching briefly on TSP, so I'm not going into detail as far as what your individual options are, what you're contributing to, and scenarios as far as which funds you got going on and how the market is doing right now in those areas. I don't know that information. Just to let you know, we've got the 2 options. We've got traditional and Roth. Basically, it just depends on how the taxes are handled. So, of course, traditional, we know that our salaries are taxed, and then our TSP deductions are removed from our salary or deducted from our salary. Roth is basically the opposite. So we actually pay taxes on Roth. Comes from a salary that has already been taxed. Okay. The benefit in the end is when you start to draw that TSP money is how the taxes are going to be handled. If they're going to go ahead and take it off at the end, when you start to draw it at 59.5 or later, or if it was Roth, the taxes have already been taken out, so you just get that money paid out to you. Whether Roth or traditional is better for you, then that's another question that I would not be able to ask, but I would encourage you to contact TSP. Some people who are close to retirement don't benefit from Roth, so they just continue traditional and vice versa. So basically, as we know as FERS employees, TSP is supposed to increase our retirement. That's the biggest portion of our retirements. So contributing toward TSP is definitely something you want to do if you've not been already doing so. And the two types of investments, excuse me, the L fund, that's the life cycle fund, the one that projects out to how close you are at retirement, from retirement age, and it determines if it's going to be aggressive, risky or low risk, so that it doesn't lose the capital. It's basically trying to make you money, but it's just a way that you don't have to track it. So with the L fund, they track it for you. And then you can also enroll in individual funds. A lot of us were automatically placed in the G fund when we first started, but some people have changed over the years, moved funds back and forth, watched the market and make changes accordingly. But that's another way to move your money around in TSP. And of course, in order for us to be able to contribute to TSP, we must be under FERS. So CSRS employees, they can contribute to TSP, they just don't get the agency matching like we get the agency matching. Okay. So of course the G fund, that's the most safe fund, low risk, and that's why a lot of people, we used to be placed in that one automatically, not anymore. The F fund, fixed index investment fund, and here is where it shows you how you can track it, where you can look to track those funds and how they are doing. And this is a low to moderate risk. Common stock index fund, and you can track that on the S&P 500, moderate risk. Small capitalization stock index, the S fund, stocks of small to medium size U.S. companies. The Dow Jones Index is how you're going to track that one, and that's moderate to high risk. You've got the international stock index funds, and that's international stocks of 21 developed countries. And Morgan Stanley is how you track that one on that index, and it's moderate to high risk as well. And then, of course, the life cycle fund is a combination of all those funds. However, a certain percentage of your contribution is just basically distributed across all of the different funds. So basically, like I said, they're trying to, either if you're close to retirement, they don't want to make your money too risky because they don't want to lose your money. So they might be a little safe and maybe some moderate investments for you. Okay. And the further you are from retirement, the more risky they are. Now, withdrawing your TSP, if you have like $200 or less in there, they're just going to go ahead and cut you a check and be like, all right, that's your money. Go ahead and take it. But now you can leave your money in TSP. You could do full withdrawal. You can do a mixture of different types of withdrawals. There's ways you can purchase an annuity so that you can be paid out for the rest of your retirement. Even if your money, so of course the difference between purchasing an annuity and just having whatever you have in there paid out is, whatever you have in there pay out, but it could eventually end when you know there's no more money left. When you purchase an annuity, that's something that you'll continue to be able to draw on until you pass away. And some people decide whether they bank on being alive for that many years. So that's just something that you can talk to TSP about. Now, as you see here, it says must begin to receive TSP funds by April 1st of the year after you turn 70 and a half. Okay, there's a certain portion of your TSP that you have to start drawing on. Otherwise, you could potentially forfeit it. It's your money. Who would want to forfeit their own money? You actually have to say, okay, I didn't meet that timeline like I was supposed to. You got to apply to get that money back. So definitely want you to call TSP. When you are looking at this whole retirement planning thing here, not only should you attend these seminars, but Social Security, I think they mentioned something about Social Security coming out. Definitely want to get their take on it. And also TSP. Start giving them a call, looking at those statements that come in the mail. Just make sure that everything is in order, because you've got 3 areas, 3 checks that you can have coming in for retirement from your civilian side, not the military side, because that's another check. And if you want to withdraw, the only way to withdraw any of your monies is going through TSP. And their form is the TSP 70. And if you have questions on filling that out or anything like that, definitely give them a call. You really can't do anything with TSP until about a month after you retire. They will be made aware that you're retiring. They're going to wait until your final payroll deductions are submitted to them. They'll change your status from an active employee to a retiree and send you information about your options. TSP makeup. So for our individuals who are called to active duty during the time that they are federal employees, when they are placed on orders and they mobilize, they miss their agency matching for that time frame. So they have the opportunity to apply for what's called a catch-up, a makeup. Catch-up is something different. Makeup. So they get to get the agency contributions, and of course, if they were up to 5%, then they still get to get the agency matching as well. So it's something that when they come back, in order to submit this information, they've got to submit their orders, their LESs for the whole time that they were gone, so it's calculated. A lot of information that they have to send in so that we can send it to DFAS, but it's well worth it. Okay. And if they say they are applying for that, then they won't be penalized if they are in a current year that they're paying up to the agency maximum, but they are paying for period of service that happened a year prior. They can still pay so that they can make up for the prior year, and it won't take away from their $18,500 for that current year, which is the IRS limit. Okay, so if this applies to anyone, we need LES for the entire time frame, DD-214 orders, and you could send that to your local HR, but if you need to ask specific questions, definitely give us a call, because we're going to be the ones that process it at ABC. So we want to make sure that you've got everything that you need. And if there's things that you want to request and you don't know how to, we can assist you in that direction. Okay. This is just an example of the letter that employees receive. Okay, TSP catch-up. Anyone over the age of 50 has an opportunity to contribute an additional $6,000, and that's the maximum amount for this year. So not only are you able to contribute $18,500, after age 50, you could do an additional $6,000. So one thing is for sure, you have got to be going toward that regular $18,500 limit. So otherwise, there's no need to do the additional $6,000. So if you have, say for every pay period, starting in January, you say $600 something a paycheck going toward TSP, so that by the end of that year, you can have the full $18,500. You can also simultaneously have deductions for the TSP catch-up of up to $6,000 more. Just a way to, after age 50, maximize your TSP contributions. And it's not something that you just have to do in the beginning of the year, but we do have a chart on our homepage. It shows whichever pay period we are currently in, the date it'll become effective, and the paycheck that you can see it coming out of. And it'll just show how many more paychecks we have for the rest of this year, and potentially how much more you can increase your TSP contributions for that year. So for long-term care insurance, we typically have long-term care come out and talk to us and everything like that. We don't have a lot of information to give you. If you're contributing in long-term care right now, you can take that into retirement with you. If you're not and you're interested in it, then I would suggest you go to this website here or give them a call, because depending on if it's open season for long-term care or not, I think the difference is whether it's a long application or a short application. But if you want to know more about long-term care and if it's something that you might be interested in, definitely check out their website. Flexible spending accounts. Very beneficial, especially if people want to lower their taxable earnings or pay off medical bills or braces, whatever the case is, because it covers family members' bills as well, spouse and children. Then you can enroll in the flexible spending account. One thing about the flexible spending account right now is that we can't take that into retirement with us. So right now, that is not a benefit that we can continue into retirement. Okay. Now, when it comes to our supplemental dental and vision plans, like I have both supplemental dental and vision, but I don't have the health care. So we don't actually have to have health care in order to be able to have the dental and vision plans. And another benefit of this is that we don't even have to have that for 5 years in order to take it into retirement with us. Okay. And even after retirement, if you want to change dental and vision that you currently have, you can participate in open season with OPM and make those changes with them. And the OPM's open season is the same time frame as ours, the second Monday of November to the second Monday in December. Excuse me. All right. Retirement estimates. This is how you figure out if there's anything going on in your retirement that you may not have been aware of, like service that may not be creditable, and you thought it was credible because that leave SCD says it is, or you haven't met the criteria for carrying your life insurance or your health insurance into retirement. The designation of beneficiary form is on file as of X date. Those are the kind of things that we look at for you, and we indicate it on those estimates. We can't provide an estimate if you're further than 5 years out. We do compute those once every 3 years. What you can do once you receive that from us is go into EBIS. There's the advanced retirement calculation tools where you can change the numbers around to match, say, the SCD date that we provide to you, adjust the amount of your high 3 average salary. There's also a tool for you to figure out your high 3 average salary. And if you're having any trouble in EBIS, that's our system at ABC. So you can give us a call and the counselors will be able to go in and kind of walk you through that process. We verify military time, civilian time. We look in your EOPF from the date you came on board with that first position all the way to your current position. So if there's anything in there that we miss, like if we didn't give you credit or calculate any IRS service, then that IRS service might not be in your EOPF, and that's also another indicator that you need to either give us a call or, no, I'm going to say give us a call so that we can actually discuss your options. Because if you're telling us that you had additional service and we're saying, well, it's not in your EOPF, and if you can go on your EOPF and verify it's not there, then what we'll do is try to request information from the National Records Center so that all the dead files or anything that might be archived, that they can go back there, dust them off, pull them, so that they can make sure that they're added to your EOPF. That's a process in itself, so that's something that we like to check as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this gentleman had an estimate from ABC before, and there was time that was not able to be verified from our agency. What we do is we go through OPM, because what is supposed to happen, every agency that you separate from, they're supposed to submit your IRR, or we call it 3100. They're supposed to fill that out and submit it to OPM or send it electronically so that that is on file with OPM. We go to them and say, hey, this service is not in this employee's EOPF. Do you have any records of that? If the IRR showed that you had that period of service or that time frame, the next thing we have to do is request it from the the National Personnel Records Center, NPRC. And that's how we have to go about getting it. At the last resort, it's like, okay, did you make copies of that? Because we can't find them. We don't have them in your EOPF. They didn't follow you from one agency to the next. That's very rare, but it does happen. And if you ever have anything like that occur, has anyone heard of MyBiz? Send a MyBiz ticket. Because if you have any questions about missing service, that's going to go to the processing center, and the processing center is responsible for making sure that all your service history is included. So they're going to be the ones that start searching for all that information. Yes. Now, if you see, the question was, I have 2 different comp dates, one for leave, one for retirement. Can we change it? Are you saying when you go into EBIS to calculate your retirement? Then you can make adjustments to it so that it shows the actual creditable service. There's questions for EBIS that'll ask you if any of this time is included for your military retirement so they can take it out. If you have so many different situations like redeposit service, deposit service, please let us do that first estimate for you. But once you go into the tool and use it, of course, we're always trying to adjust it to make sure it's user-friendly and so that everyone can make sure that they use it and do it themselves. We definitely try to make sure it's adjusted, but there's certain things that we see as counselors that we have to apply the guidelines for that period. But yeah, you're able to make an adjustment, but I'll still say get an estimate from us and compare so you can see how close it is. Okay. So we show you the impact of paying for military deposits or civilian deposits. We like to do reports 2 ways. So if you're saying, well, I've got this military time, I didn't pay for it, but I don't know if it's going to be worth it to me, then the estimate that we're going to show you is going to show whether you paid it or whether it's unpaid. So one is going to show both military and civilian time, and then the other calculation is going to show just your civilian time. Of course, confirming that you're able to take those benefits into retirement. So that's definitely a plus. Okay. First, I thought this was a bad idea, but it's actually kind of good. This is the top portion of the estimates that we send out to people. The reason why I thought it was bad, because I'm looking at the dollar amount, the bottom line there, and I'm like, people are not going to let me leave once they see that. But it's actually a good idea to see it. You know, this is someone else's situation, but it's a good indication. So this is what the unreduced, and this is for discontinued service retirement. I thought they do not want us to leave out there alive. So DSR, and we said that this is the one that the agency has to offer. Anyway, DSR retirement, person entitled to $1,184.09, and this is before any reductions. In this case, this person's doing a survivor benefit, and remember, this person's doing full, which means that's a 10% reduction, $118.41. Okay, and then we come down to the deductions. Health insurance, monthly rate, it's probably Blue Cross Blue Shield, $462.17, and then life insurance, $205.93. You don't see dental, vision, federal taxes. Those are things that you can always adjust, or because it's dental and vision, and that's handled by a contract company, we can't actually see that. So if you say, hey, I got dental and I pay X amount, or this is the premium, the plan that I have at the time that you submit this request, then we can put it in there. But if you don't see it on your estimate report, it doesn't mean you can't take it with you. You can take it into retirement with you. So net monthly pay, this is before taxes, $396.90. But good news, the person is also entitled to the FERS annuity supplement of $777. FERS annuity supplement is only taken into account for the service when? Okay. When you were paying into the FERS retirement system. So that's why you see that's $400. This person is probably going to get much more when they actually apply for Social Security, because it's going to take into account everything that they paid into Social Security. So keep in mind, the FERS annuity supplement is only calculated based on your FERS service. And then this one, since this employee elected to leave a survivor benefit, then their spouse will be entitled to 50% of their annuity, $592. If this person were to pass away, I think they made this name up, but I hope it's nobody in this room. So if this person were to pass away, because they left a survivor annuity, their spouse will be able to continue the health insurance coverage into retirement. Now, if the spouse ends up being the only person left on that health and benefit, then it changes. It's not necessarily going to be a self plus one or self and family. If there's only going to be one person remaining, then they get to pay the self-only rate, which is a lot cheaper than that, because it's going to be deducted from that amount that they get monthly. And that's also taxed. You know, honestly, I've actually processed retirements and had to go and give a counseling for people who owe money. I mean, you're going to see a parenthesis. If you see a parenthesis right here behind that dollar amount, then that's how much you owe. And that's basically so you can keep all this. I processed a retirement. The gentleman was 70. He wanted to keep all his life insurance, so he kept basic, A, and B 5 times. No reduction or anything. And so as I'm talking to this gentleman, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make sure I let him know, because if you want to make any changes, we can take care of it right now, because otherwise he's not going to receive a retirement check. So while I'm talking to him and I'm explaining it to him, he explains to me that he knows, he's aware of it, and he has some kind of condition that he knew he needs to retire so he could start enjoying life, whatever's left of life for him, because he knew he was going to be passing away soon. And what he told me was that he has the best grandchildren in the world. And the greatest gift that he could give to them was to make sure that they have some wealth for when they grow up and they're old enough to start, going to college and everything like that. So his gift to his grandkids was having no retirement come out pretty much because he was paying for his life insurance. So whatever the reason is, you could definitely continue it. If it's just people retire with the MRA plus 10 because they're ready to go, but they need their health insurance. And it's pretty small. That bottom line is pretty small, but they need their health insurance and they're happy with that. And they don't have to show up for work anymore. So win-win. Okay, so in this case, this individual had a total of 21 years and 16 months. Sick leave, they had 1,640 hours of unused sick leave, which gave them an additional 9 months and 13 days. So when we add it all together, 22 years and 3 months is what was calculated toward that retirement right there. That 29 days is not used. If it's not a full month, it doesn't do anything for your retirement annuity. And DSR, yeah, it was Blue Cross Blue Shield. And yes, the FEHB was Z5, which is the most that can be left. That's why they showed this one, because it makes people think about how much life insurance they want to comfortably carry into retirement. And then, let me see, the high 3 average salary for this employee, I can't see that. I thought it was 83. I was getting ready to get nervous. $63,861. High 3 average salary. And that's what their retirement would look like. Okay, I know you guys can't see any of this. If you get an estimate on the page, I believe it's 3 of 4 or 4 of 4, it's going to have a survivor annuity section where it gives you the alternative form of annuity. So if you request an estimate and we give you full, some people say, can I get an estimate with full and partial? We'll only do it a full so that you can get this chart here to show you if you decided to do partial, what your reduction would be, what you would pay monthly. So in this case, if this person decided that they wanted to do a partial or half, then they would have $59.20 deducted from their salary, and their spouse will be entitled to receive $296 per month. Okay? Health insurance premium there. Now right here, this is where I want you guys to pay really close attention to. In this example, it shows the total amount of coverage that they would have, but one thing is for sure, it does not show, which I would love for it to, is how the premiums for option B and option C would increase over the years, because it almost triples once you reach age 70. So what they did on here was they did full reduction. So remember when I said if they do full reduction, you won't pay a premium, and eventually that is going to reduce down and then it's going to go away. So anyway, in this case, now we're giving out estimates to show no reduction, so that each year you can see the increase in that life insurance. All right, so 5 years prior, please contact ABC, start getting estimates, have us calculate it for you. If there's anything missing, you need to start getting it looked at. You guys have access to your MyBiz. If you have any of those questions about service comp date, missing history in your EOPF, do your MyBiz ticket, and also give us a call so that we can start discussing your next step, so we can at least give you calculations so that you don't have any surprises. Yes, sir.
When we call for an estimate, what information would we have to provide?
When you call for an estimate, the information that you'll have to provide would be the date, the proposed date that you want to retire, and this is just for you. So we don't share this with anyone. We're not letting the command know that you're thinking about retirement, you might want to talk to this. No, we just send it to you. And also, whether or not you want us to include the survivor benefit. We ask questions that we can verify later on in the history, but we like to put notes in there because even if the person is taking the request, they're not necessarily going to be the one to calculate it. It can go to anyone at the ABC. So we ask, have you ever had any non-appropriated funding time? So we know if we got to look up the public laws for NAF. Or if you had military service. Yes? Okay. Did you pay for that military service? Do you know if that's included or if it's the paid in full letter is in your EOPF? So there's certain things we have. We ask about breaks in service, the best phone number to call. Now you can actually go into your EBIS account without calling us and submit an estimate request. You go into, it's called HR Link. So once you log into EBIS, you'll look for the tab that says HR Link, click on that, fill out all that information, and submit. It'll be next in line, of course, first in, first out, of the estimate request that we have. So if you don't feel like calling the ABC counselor, you don't have to. One of the best parts about that is you'll get an email letting you know when it's done, and it's going to tell you to go back into your EBIS account, go back to the HR link, and your report is right there. I'm going to say 6 weeks. So definitely want to get those requests in now. So the question was, how long did that take? Is about 6 weeks. And is that the one that's every 3 years? Yes. That is the one that you can request every 3 years. So in between the time frame, we advise you to go to EBIS and use those self-service tools for advanced calculators, high 3 average salary calculators, things like that. There's even a FEHB calculator. So you can decide how much life insurance you want to take into retirement and the premiums. 180 days prior to retirement, we want you to get those forms completed. You can go into EBIS. It's one of my favorite ways to complete it because you can save it in there. When you're ready, you print it off. So that's set up for when we do go fully automated for retirements. Right now, we're not. So you do have to print them off, sign them, make sure you save a copy for yourself, and send the original into the Army Benefits Center. 90 to 120 days prior to retirement, get that packet mailed. Like I said, we've got retirements in-house for December. So you go in line with whatever month you decide and whatever day, you're in order of how they were received. Always put good retirement information. So don't want to put your work number or your fax number or your work email. You want to make sure it's a way for OPM to reach you after retirement. There's people who say, hey, I'm going off the grid, so I'm just going to put my bank account information in. You don't need to know where I'm at. I'm going to Thailand. And I lied to you not. It's hard to get a hold of them, but they're retired and off the grid. Always keep a copy for yourself. Once we receive your retirement packets, you will receive an automatic email. It's letting you know that it's at ABC, and we've got it. We're looking at it. We're going to put it in order of when received. We can't process it. We can hold on to it. We can't hold on to it more than 365 days because your signature can expire, so the date you sign it expires. OPM won't take it. We'll have to ask you to do that page over again. Also, we want to make sure that everything is received in time. 30 to 60 days prior to retirement, we get it assigned to a specialist. So one of the people who are answering the phones or doing the retirement or the estimates are also processing your retirements. That means, one, they are very busy, but two, they're pretty knowledgeable because they actually touch your paperwork and they advise you on both benefits and retirement-related issues. Okay. Once they process your retirement, they will try to make 2 attempts to contact you. So whatever number you put on your application, we'll try that number. If you don't answer, we will leave a voicemail, but we'll also try to catch you at work. And there's some counselors who will also try and send you an email as well, because it's very important that you give us a call, because our attempt is to give you all the information as to what to expect going into retirement. And if you need to make any changes, like, I can't carry all that life insurance into retirement, that's way too much, then we can make that adjustments at that time. So we'd like for you to be able to reach you so that we can discuss that with you, make any changes before we send it off to DFAS. We can still make changes, but it's best for us to be able to do it while we still have your packet in front of us. 2 to 4 weeks after retirement. Final paycheck. So your final employee paycheck is what you're looking to receive, plus any unused annual leave is going to pay out to you as well. Of course, it's going to be taxed. And if I'm not mistaken, it's anywhere between 28 and 33%. But they'll take the taxes off and pay you whatever's left. If you have a VSIP payment, like if you are going out on that voluntary retirement authority, then that's something that you'll also be looking for being paid out to you. One tip I like to give everyone is, before retirement, make sure you go into MyPay and update your user ID and password. Because remember, after retirement, you won't have your CAT card. Okay? Go into EOPF and get anything in EOPF that you might need. Some people are like, I'm retired, I don't need anything. But for other people who might want to hold on to some of that information, make sure you go ahead and go in there now or prior to retirement, because you won't have access to it anymore. MyPay will be available to you all the way up until the next year after tax season, all the way up until next tax season, because that's where you'll get your W-2. W-2 is available in MyPay, whereas when you retire, you'll get that 1099. And that's something you'll get on OPM's website. We'll talk about that one. Okay. About 8 to 10 weeks after retirement, you should receive your first interim payment. So the way the timeline goes is, once we process your retirement, talk to you, go over everything with you, send it off to DFAS. DFAS hold on to your retirement until your retirement date comes. So after midnight of your retirement date, DFAS can then release it to OPM, because OPM does not want a person's retirement if they haven't actually retired. OPM will then go ahead and assign you a CSA number, Civil Service Annuitant number, and it'll be in kind of a welcome letter. But keep in mind, that CSA number is very important, because that's how they identify you if you were to call them. All your correspondence is going to have that CSA number on it. You get assigned that number after you retire. We've had people call us 2 weeks later after retirement saying, hey, when you guys going to give me my CSA number? OPM is going to send that in the mail, and it's going to be about 6 weeks after you retire. But keep in mind, once you get that letter from OPM in the mail, then you're going to want to be on the lookout for your first deposit for your retirement annuity. It is interim. That means that they do pay you your retirement, it's just a portion. Because while they're in the interim process, they want you to continue to be receiving your annuity, but not the full amount, because when they go in and do a recalculation of everything that we've already calculated, then they pay you a portion, in the end, once they finalize it, they pay you everything that they've held on to. It's usually about 70 to 75%. And they do take taxes out, which is good, because by the time they finally pay you, the last thing you want them to do is go ahead and start taking taxes out from what they already paid you. So they will take taxes from that. You guys will get a letter from the Army Benefits Center about your retirement, providing you OPM's contact information. In the meantime, while you're waiting for OPM to notify you, you can still give us a call. We'll be your liaison going into the retirement processed. If after you get that information from OPM, then you belong to them and we can't make any changes. It's going to be totally in OPM's hands. So we like to make any changes that you might want ahead of time. All right, so sometimes people want to retire and sometimes they change their mind. It happens a lot. And first is a really good idea and you're just ready to go. And the closer we get to that date, it's like, well, maybe I'll stay on for a couple months because I think they need me. Or my boss asked me to stay on longer. Whatever the situation is, we need you to let us know right away because we do have a process. It's called the DOR change form. It is on the ABC website. If you go to the Army Benefit Center website, there's a section that says, how do I? And it's on the left-hand side toward the bottom. It says, how do I? Whether it's access my EOPF, how do I change my date of retirement? Click on that link. It's going to take you to the form because people would call in years ago wanting to change it. We get that information from them over the phone because all of the phone calls are recorded. And we go ahead and make that change. Well, then there was a time when people would say, I don't remember calling in. Are you sure that was me? So now we have to require people to sign the form and the date that they want. And there's also a statement there to say that you understand that by changing or withdrawing your retirement may cause problems with your paycheck. So if you decide you want to change your retirement date and it's like a day before retirement, we will definitely try to pull everything. I mean, you'd see people jumping through hoops. That's us trying to pull it back. So we don't get you off the roads because you might show up for work and that CAT card does not work anymore. So we want to keep from anything like that happening. So please let us know as soon as possible so we can make those adjustments. Some people pull that date closer because something happened at work and instead of retiring in June, I'm retiring the end of this month. And if it wasn't for that end of the month rule, I would retire right now. All right, so sign, fax, get it to ABC. If there's a Vera VSIP involved, a Vera, especially a Vera, but if they say that you are going out on that early authority, most of the time there's some restructuring and reorganization going on. We've got to get verification from your supervisor before we can go ahead and do that, at least from CPAC. We'll talk to CPAC, because sometimes once you sign off on that agreement, that's it. It's irrevocable. All right. Okay, so that's our phone number, 877-276-9287. That fax number right there, that goes to our mail-in file room. So you can send it to that fax number if you have anything that you need to add in there. There's people who send their packet and they're like, hey, I forgot to send my W-4P. They can go ahead and fax it or fax it into that, because it doesn't have to be a wet signature, to that fax number with the cover letter, because we get a lot of faxes coming in our mail and file room. And then you definitely want to follow up with us in 24 hours. So the next day, go ahead and give us a call, because that's in a different building, but they're responsible for logging everything in and then bringing it over to us. Now, if you're dealing with a retirement counselor, they'll probably give you the fax number that's closest to them if they need you to send something. Or they might say, please encrypt an email and send it to me, and then I'll add it to your packet and we move forward. But that's usually after you have someone that you're already assigned to. Okay. So the mailing address is Army Benefit Center-Civilian, because we're the Army Benefit Center for civilians only, 305 Marshall Avenue, Fort Riley, Kansas, 66442-7005. And I know it says Monday through Friday, but we change our slides once a year. So in December, they'll probably have the updated time. Just know that if you try to give us a call on a Friday, you won't be able to get through. So please keep in mind, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Thursday. And if that changes, we will definitely put that information out there. Go to our website, because we post if we're having any weather issues which cause our agency to be closed, or if our systems are experiencing intermittent issues. We try to post all that information on the website so that you guys will know before you either try to call us or if you can't get through to us at all.
Quick question. I know you said that you can retire at any time of the month, maybe the last day of the month, but is there any particular time of the year, January, August, September, December, that you know of?
Okay. Is there a particular time of the year to retire? It's basically once you're eligible, you choose. Some people want to retire when it's nice and hot, and they could go straight to the beach or just be outside or whatever the case is. Some people want to retire at the end of the year on the 31st, right before New Year's. So it depends on you. And if you pick a date, like say September 30th, nobody's going to want to pick that date. That's a very popular date too. So at the end of each quarter, it's popular. The end of the fiscal year is popular. So no. We get so financial impact really isn't, unless you want to say, well, when my payout for my annual leave is, or, something like that for tax purposes, then people consider the next year so that their payout is with the next year after retirement.
Got a question. So did you say that 1 year after we retire from civil service that my pay will be available where we could download the 1099s from?
So 1 year after retirement, you're asking if the 1099s will be available to download?
Right.
Okay. So just to reiterate that, because I want to make sure that information was provided or was received. Your 1099s are going to be issued through opm.gov. So once you become an annuitant, you will go onto your opm.gov, is online services for retirees, and access the 1099 for retirement purposes. Your MyPay account, where you want to get your W-2 form, that's the one that's going to be available to the next tax season, to about April 15th of the next year. But if you didn't update or set up that user information, then you may have a hard time getting in there. So you could either do one or two things. You can go into MyPay and set it up so they can mail you the hard copy W-2 form, or you can or both. Make sure that you go in and update that user ID and password, because you still want to take a look at those LESs, those final couple LESs for your final salary and your annual leave payout, and make sure that it is paid out at the right rate, that any deductions that they take out, that it doesn't seem out of the ordinary. So you just want to be able to access that so you can make sure that that's accurate.
I see. So basically, so then after that first year, then everything else will come off of the OPM website then, correct?
Yes. So after that year, the question was, everything is going to be from OPM's website that you'll get information. Yes, once you become a retiree, a full retiree, because most of the time we retire, we've got a little bit of federal employment that year, and then the rest of that year is retirement. Then you know that you got to go to your MyPay account, and this is for civilians, because unlike military retired, they still have access to that MyPay account. But for your civilian LES, you won't have that anymore. It'll be strictly through the OPM website. Yes, ma'am? The question was, can a person take leave leading up until retirement? Military calls it terminal leave. We just leave the same way we request leave, the same process through our supervisors and things like that. Whether they approve it or not, that's a whole separate situation. Guidelines state that a person is supposed to work on your very last day. So we can't tell you, no, you can't take leaves, or yes, you can take leave. Is it done? It happens. I do want to say that if they order the cake for you and they got your date set up, they got that nice pretty cake and everybody is ready to present you with something, a certificate for showing up and doing a great job while you're there. And then you submit your packet and everything and we calculate it, but we got to call you and say, okay, well, we found some temporary service in here that's not creditable. And the person says, well, no, I've been looking at my leave service computation date and I got plenty of time. I'm eligible. I meet my retirement age, my MRA, I'm eligible. And then when we go over the information, the criteria, the guidelines, paying back service, creditable, non-creditable, and then they realize that they really can't retire, but they already got the cake. They already filled out a certificate. So we ask, please let us know, or contact ABC, or go to EBIS, however you want to get that estimate. Because there's a lot of things we need to be revealed before we retire. All right. When you give us a call, Army employees, we hit option number 1. DCMA employees, of course, that's the Defense Contract Management Agencies. Number 2, we do serve as National Guard employees, NAF, and some members of the Uniformed Services. So, and I think that is it.